we go.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
how are you? Yeah, no, that's all good, man.
All right.
It's yeah, it's funny you don't do one of these things for a while, and I did like three of them in the last thing, and you would think the tech would be up and all good, but
Yeah, I got to do about seven of these today. So
good luck.
yeah, right. So you better
um,
ask some good questions, man. No, I'm just kidding.
no, I won't muck around. I got
I'm
some
just kidding.
I got some good ones for you. I got some dirt on you as well, so I've got to
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, oh, maybe not dirt. So you must be pretty excited about the album. It's I've heard it from front to back, a pre-release, and it's incredible, man. I'm a huge fan, but it's so hectic.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty happy with it, man. You know, we just kind of went into it doing what we normally do when we go to record records, but this time we our engineer kind of had a different vision for the sound of it um sonically, so we're real happy with the way it came out.
It definitely sounds like a bigger record. I mean, you've certainly done some fierce records over your career, but it's yeah, I'd probably say it's like super visceral and really in your face. And the production, like you just mentioned, is really chunky and dynamic. It's really, yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
this yeah, thank you. Yeah, this time we recorded the previous record was we recorded the instrumentation at Mercenary Studios with our engineer Noah Buchanan, and then we had it mixed by someone else, one of the young brothers out on the West Coast, and Taylor, and I had done the vocals at another studio. Now, this time coming into this record, Noah was like, he's like, dudes, he's like, just let me do everything. He's like, trust me, let me do everything. And there's no knock on the previous record because we love that one too. But this time he was like, let me do everything. I've got a good vision for what I want this to sound like. And he was able to make it sound just super nasty, super heavy, but not muddy. You could still hear
Yeah,
everything very clear, and we couldn't be happier with the way it sounds.
yeah. It's not. It's yeah, as you said, it's not muddy, but I also think it's not overproduced as well, because sometimes
Sure,
like a lot of
it's really dirty and raw, but not to the extent where you everything gets muddied. You could just still hear everything pretty crystal clear.
yeah, it's a great job. But so you obviously it's obviously I think this record too is a kind of a mix of all your styles. I mean, I know it's yeah, people try to throw you into a kind of or pigeonhole you, but it's definitely there's bits of death metal in it. It's a real it's a real thrashy metal album, I reckon. Like it's really with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean that's always been part of our chemistry, our DNA ever since the start. We've always been there's always been a little bit of grind in there, some thrash metal, and a little bit of hardcore. Now, sometimes from record to record, those those percentages vary a little bit. Some records a little more thrashy, some a little more hardcore. And This one's got a pretty even mix of everything across the board. The only thing, and honestly, the only thing that was kind of lacking, I don't want to say lacking, but missing in this record was one slow track, which we didn't have originally. And then Matt kind of came to the studio with the last song that's on the record, which is a really slow song.
yeah.
And we kind of, that wasn't planned. We kind of put that in there after the fact. After we were done recording, he went back in and did some more stuff. So now we've actually got everything that we kind of do, all equal percentages. I feel.
It, I think that track, it closes it out as well. You know what I mean? Like it's a good. Sometimes that can be a good way to go. Like it's still
Yeah,
very
it's
good.
kind of like a cool down exercise after you work out a little bit. You
Yeah.
know.
You gotta chill a little bit. Yeah. Also on the album, what I loved as well, Def Hoax with you had the Voivod guitarist on it.
Yes.
That's a biggie. I'm a huge fan. I've loved them since the early days, man. But that's yeah.
Too.
What a score.
Yeah, you know what? What happened with that was we've been fortunate to do some touring with Voivod, and we kind of became friends with them, and we've done a few shows here and there with them, and they're just all around great guys. The whole band is great, and touring with them was just it's like touring with your favorite band from when you were a little kid. I felt like I was 16 years old every night watching them play. I was like, it was awesome. So when we went to record the record, we kind of did it during the lockdown, the shutdown, when the whole world shut down. So um, that's when we kind of had the record a lot written. And when we got into the studio, um, you know, we thought about maybe bringing in some guests, you know what I mean? So I don't know who thought of it, maybe myself or Matt. I'm like, what about Dan? I'm like, from Voivod. And he's like, that would be great if we could make this happen. And I know Dan had done some guitar work, and our friend, there's a band called Child Bite here from
Oh
Detroit.
yeah, yeah, good band.
Yeah. And I know Dan knows those guys too, or excuse me, Sean from Child Bite knows them and got Dan to do some work on their record. And so I hit him up and I said, "Hey Dan, well, how'd you feel about doing this?" And he's like, "I feel real good about it." So we sent him the track, and we had no idea what we were going to get back because Dan's on another level. He's from outer space. You know what I mean? Very unconventional as when you compare it to other guitar players. He's got his own style. He still lives in Voivod world, but he's got his own thing going on. And so we had no idea what we were going to get. And he comes back and with this just brilliantly strange solo for this song, but it fits. The more I listen to it, the more I love it, and it's a good contrast from what Matt does, and what he does. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of that song. It kind of sucks because I like the song and I'd like to try to play that live, but we need to get someone to come in and you know what I mean? Who's gonna play Dan's part in that and do it justice? So
Get the hologram thing happening, man.
who knows? He's in Voivod. They probably are onto that. So
They are, yeah. What a catalog. But they've only toured once in Australia, but yeah, they were lovely. Like to meet them. They were so down to earth and just
well, I'm so fucking happy for those guys because they're a band that deserve all the accolades they get, and like it just seemed to go over the past, maybe 6-7 years. They're just starting to get the notoriety that I think that they deserve. Of course, I'm a super fan, and a lot of the younger metal kids sometimes don't get them, but they've never changed their style. They're Voivod, you know what I mean? And I love seeing them get the attention that they deserve.
Yeah, they should.
They're pioneers.
They definitely should. I wanted to chat to you about the artwork for the album. It's pretty incredible. Obviously you've had a leading hand in all the previous artwork, and then I know as a career as well, you do art and you're also a tattooist. But yeah, really blew it out of the park. I think it's quite different. Like it's almost in a kind of death metal, Seagrave kind of vibe.
Yeah, that was the intention really, because the previous 3 records I kind of spent each of those previous 3 records, each one of them took at least 200 hours to complete. Wow. At very least, because that was all done with dots and lines and fine hyper detailed illustration, and those are great. I'm happy with those. But with this new record, we wanted to take a fresh approach, and so we kind of just wanted to go something with color, something that had a lot of bright color to it.
Yeah.
Something that's kind of striking imagery, I guess. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel by putting a skull on the front of our album cover, but but that's okay, I kind of wanted to kind of do that type of death metal feel to it, kind of the stuff that I grew up looking at, Entombed record covers, Dan Seagrave, all that stuff. So that's kind of the approach I took with it, and it was kind of it was refreshing because it did not take me hundreds of hours to do it for a change. So it took a while, but I'm happy with the outcome.
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, I think it's a definitive kind of merch thing.
Yeah. Plus, I think the artwork sounds like the record. It looks like the record sounds. So whereas the other ones were a little more fine art and stuff, and the the artwork was a little more fancy and illustrated, and which is cool. And but the music is Ringworm music, so it's a little bit clash between that type of thing. But this artwork looks like the record sounds.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I think it's fantastic. What are some of your favorite tracks from the album? I mean, you obviously touched on the closing track. I think
Well, the Death Hoax with Dan is is the one
yeah,
that
yeah,
I like a lot. Um, Thought Crimes I like quite a bit too.
yeah,
We
yeah.
tried to pick the songs that for the singles that we put out for this. We tried to pick ones that we like, obviously, but
Good video too, by the way. The art
yeah.
video. I don't know if you had anything to do with, it, but it's a great video.
Which one? For
For Fort Crimes, the art one. That's
oh
decent.
yeah, I helped put a lot of that together. I did a version with the lyrics, a lyric video, and then one of the designers at Nuclear Blast kind of put together. I supplied them with some images,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
did what they were doing. So that was pretty cool. And then No Solace, No Quarter, No Mercy,
yeah,
the title track. That one, or the not the title track, but the first song on the record. That one's good too. It's kind of hard to pick one that I like a lot.
yeah,
Um, at this point too, it's strange because this is our ninth record. So in a perfect world, you want to be able to play every song on the album, but that's not how things work. Usually you have to kind of pick four, maybe five that you have to kind of like feather into your set as you go along, because if you come out, I mean, you could come out and just play the whole record, and then you're going to have some people pissed off because you're not playing anything off the previous eight records.
yeah, yeah.
So you've got to pick a few that you like. So the songs from the singles we'll be playing, and then we actually grabbed a couple more that we would put in our repertoire that we're going to pull out for live shows. So it's
Yeah, I
yeah,
also think that just tonight too. I think the title track is killer as well. I mean, it's just it's a
thank you.
real rager. Like it's like, but yeah,
Yeah,
there's
it kind of
definitely no
builds
weak
up. It just
points.
starts out rocking, and then builds
Yeah,
up, and away you go.
was that with that rock and stuff? Was that nearly like your the other band you play? Is it Gluttons? Is that the band you play?
Yeah, that band's a little more just kind of hard rock, like
Rock,
Motorhead.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very very just rock and roll, heavy rock and roll stuff. So yeah, that's fun to do too. I do that quite a bit.
Yeah, I was going to say you need something to kind of balance it out, and
Well, that's the thing with Ringworm. Like a lot of bands, which is fine. They collectively feel like they want to, I guess, broaden their horizons or expand on their style, and that's cool. Some bands that works for. Some bands should be like Motorhead, like you know, oh, I don't know. There's other bands like AC/DC, Bolt Thrower. Those
yeah, yeah,
bands don't really want them to do anything else.
nah,
They're very good at what they do, and you're like, that's great. So in our case, we try to keep Ringworm. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but occasionally we try to reinvent our own wheel, so to speak. But
yeah,
keep it
yeah.
what it is. And if there's any other, I mean, we're all into different shit, but we'll just do other bands. We'll keep that in other bands and keep Ringworm right where it needs to be.
Yeah, you got to keep it fresh, and but like you said, you're not going to reinvent the kind of the
No, there's
genre or
no
anything.
point into it. We're not gonna. We don't need to do that. Not after 35 years. We don't need to do anything like that.
Exactly. Now, I wanted to touch on one of my favorite records of yours that I know the guys pretty well is the Mind Snare split. I love that from 2011. It's a amazing split, killer record.
Fuck yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah, yeah. So some of those guys, and also Drop Saw, I did a bit of research, and I found out a couple of things, and I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Nothing to
Okay.
put you too much on the spot. Are you going to bring back the John Wayne Gacy makeup? I heard that might fit in with a new album.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I did when we first started the band. We're talking 1991,
Wow.
maybe 92, and for like maybe a stretch of like, oh, I don't know, maybe like 4 shows, I would do that.
Yeah.
I don't think that would translate well these days because they'd probably just say it looks like a juggalo or something like
Yeah.
that. But it was a fun, interesting thing to do when we first started. and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
kind of set us apart from. And it was a little bit maniacal looking, and it definitely had its creep out factor.
Yeah, definitely.
We did that. But I doubt that'll be coming back.
No,
Maybe if the check's big enough, then yeah, sure.
that's it. That's it. You could do it at Wacken or something, the big festival. It's like a,
Sure, they add if they add a zero to whatever, well, I'll bust the makeup
exactly.
out.
Another interesting thing I heard was sometimes if you're angry at someone on tour, you might buy them an ice cream the next day. And now,
You've been talking to Jared, I bet, haven't you? Yes,
I
that's
can't reveal
true.
my sources, but I heard about the ice cream buying.
Yeah, that's true. Um, that's something I learned years ago on tour because sometimes sometimes you get people get mad at you for whatever, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I found that if you buy them ice cream, it's a nice way to apologize, and no one can be mad when they're eating ice cream. You know what I mean?
It's
They're just like
yeah.
all right, you're forgiven. You're like, okay, good. So
Works for
yes,
works for kids, works for adults. That's all.
you know, I'm telling you, sometimes you buy them ice cream and they'll be okay. At least it's a good way to start apologizing.
100%. Now, I also heard too that you actually met Ronnie James Dio. Is that true?
That's totally
I'd
true.
love to hear about that. He's an
All
absolute
right,
icon.
and I don't mind telling the story because it's pretty awesome. On um, their last tour, they weren't Black Sabbath. They were doing um, help me out here. What they were. I'm trying to think what year it was. Well, I can't remember the year, but it was the last tour that they were doing. And our former guitar player was in another band called Beyond Fear. And Tim Ripper Owens sang for that band, and their manager was Wendy Dio. So
Wow.
John had been at Dio before, and he was still tight with a couple of guys in the crew, and and the keyboard player from Sabbath that they had. And long story short, they were playing in Cleveland. He's like, "You guys want to go down there? You want to meet Ronnie? Maybe?" We're like, "Yeah." So we waited around. The show was over. It was getting kind of late, so we were kind of camped out at this bar having drinks with their keyboard player. And he's like, "All right, well, let's go back to the bus, and we'll see if the guys are around, and maybe we could say hello." Hell yeah, let's go. So at the time, nobody knew that Ronnie had cancer, as far as I knew. Maybe someone internally did, but no one did. So it was kind of shunned upon. If you're smoking a cigarette, just don't stand by the bus, which is fine. So I kind of stood, 20, 30 feet, 40 feet away from the bus, kind of under these bleachers where the show was, where the bus was parked. So I'm just casually smoking a cigarette by myself away from the bus. Well, out of the shadows, just walking right towards me is Ronnie James Dio holding a pint of beer. He just comes up and he starts talking. He's like, "Hey man, how you doing?" And I'm like, I'm okay, you know? And here we just, and I kind of blacked out. I don't know because I don't know what we talked about. We didn't talk. I don't know what we talked about. We talked for like a good 15 minutes, just me and him. And it was incredible. So then he's like, "Hey, maybe we should go rejoin the rest of the guys by the bus." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Whatever you want to do, man." So we walk over to there, and there's a group of people over there. My friend John, our other guitar player John at the time, Matt, our other guitar player, and a few of the crew. And so we walk over there, and John's like, "Oh, you met our singer, James." And I never mentioned the band, Ringworm, or anything. He goes, and Ronnie was known to have like a photogenic memory. You hear this in a lot of stories from people
Yeah.
because there's a lot of stories that are just like mine. So he looks at me and he goes, "Oh, Ringworm, right?" I'm like, "Yeah," like an idiot. He goes, "Do me a favor." He's like, "Don't ever sing better than me." I'm like, "Oh, you son of a bitch. All right." And so he was being totally gracious, super cool.
Wow.
And I just couldn't stop smiling. Right. So we're starting to wrap things up. It was getting kind of late at the time. It was like 2:30 in the morning. He's like, "Hey guys, well, I got to go," because there was still a line of people that needed to get their shit signed. They're holding tons of stuff. And obviously he knew that he had some cancer issues at the time, but I don't think anybody else did, but he did, I'm sure. And he goes, "Hey guys, I gotta go." And then finally, like the dam broke, and I had to nerd out on him really quick. I'm like, dude, you're like my favorite singer of all time, and blah blah blah. I couldn't keep cool for that long. And he goes, I go, you're awesome. He goes, no man, you're awesome. So he grabs my head, kisses me on the forehead. We take a couple pictures, and
Wow.
he's like, I gotta go, and he's off, and he signed everyone's things for like another hour, signing everything that everybody had, and we were gone, and I was smiling for days. So that was my little brush with the greatness of Ronnie James Dio, and he couldn't have been a nicer person. I was like
Excellent.
shocked.
Yeah. Wow.
And since then I've met people who've met him, and they say the same story. He was just a normal, like a fucking just a nice guy. So
That's amazing.
that's my Dio story. Yeah,
That's a great story. Yeah.
it's a great one. I got a couple really good pictures out of it that I see all the time because they always pop up every year. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. So
That's a big highlight, isn't it?
yeah, it is really. You know what I mean? It's nice. It's a benefit of being in the music scene. Sometimes you're in the right place at the right time, and you know someone who knows somebody, and next thing you know, you're having a conversation with Ronnie Dio. It was cool.
Walks out of the shadows. The
He
man.
did. He just, I don't know why maybe he saw me, like saw my cigarette glowing in the dark. I don't, because
Yeah.
I was in the dark. I was trying to, respect their wishes and be really far away. And he just walked right up to me. I'm like, hi. He's like, hey. We just had a long, it was a long conversation, and it doesn't feel like I can't remember what we talked about, but it doesn't. I don't remember it being like some bullshit conversation. I remember we
Mm,
were just having like just a regular chat, and it was good.
that's unreal.
It
That's
is
wild.
unreal. So that's my Dio story.
Now, going quite tangential, and this is definitely that's not connected to the last question. I heard you've got a bit of a creature of the Black Lagoon. You're a bit of a collector, I heard.
Yes, that's true. I've got a pretty good collection. I've slowed down in the past few years just for the fact that I've just in my home I've run out of room for just about everything. And that goes for collecting in general. I've been a collector like most of my friends, whether it's cassettes, CDs, DVDs, vinyl, books, magazines, toys. You just run. You after when you collect so long, you run out of room. So I've refined my collection a little bit, and I only try to add to it when I find something that's really special.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, I've got the pinball machine in my living room. I've got yeah, the creature pinball machine.
Wow.
It's kind of like the holy grail and it's signed by the guy who played the creature and Julia Adams, who was in the creature. So I actually watched the movie sitting next to the guy who played the creature of the Black Lagoon.
Wow.
That's a whole nother story for another time. But yeah,
Hundred
that was a
percent.
highlight too. Yeah,
And
that was incredible.
is that behind you? Is that a Killing Joke poster, or is that?
It is.
Yeah, I could see it. And I was like, it's got to be the artwork, and
Yep.
fantastic.
That's from a French tour. I got it from a friend. I'm a huge Killing Joke fan, and so is he. So he gave that to me.
Wow.
It's from a French concert. I'm not sure the year. It's probably in the '80s somewhere. But yeah,
Yeah, it's wild. I'm a huge fan as well. And they still put out incredible records. That's just like wow.
yeah,
What a band. So
yeah. I've seen them once, and there's another story too. I paid for the meet and greet, and had a very long conversation with Jazz Coleman, which was pretty awesome as well.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. He's definitely in a different universe. Very tangential.
And it was great. He was on stage, he's one of my favorite singers. He's so intense, and like, you could just he's almost scary. You know what I mean when you watch him play, and But meeting him in person, he was very polite, gentleman, but not too much of a gentleman. He was kind of had a swagger about him, and that was pretty awesome too.
I was gonna because we're getting near the end as well. I was gonna ask just a couple more questions. So,
Sure.
so what do you think is the legacy of the band? You've obviously been around. I think it's well over 30 years now.
Yeah.
Killer Records. You've played with extraordinary, bands, and yeah. So, what's the kind of legacy of the kind of?
Well, you know what? I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to say, because I've been in it the whole time.
Yeah,
So it's hard. We've had our ups and downs. and we just never seem to just quit. Like, when things seem like they're not going well, or we get to that point where we're like, you know what, maybe it's run its course. We always feel like we need to do another record. Like we get to that point, like, after this record, say, I'll ask Matt, I'm like, well, what do you think? Should we do another one? He'll be like, yeah, I already got 5 songs written. I'll be like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing another record. So, I mean, we're just a band that we love what we're doing. We've never done it for a career, although we've been able to forge a pretty good legacy from a band that's, not a full-time band. We've been able to do really cool shit, put out great music, meet a lot of cool people, play some cool shows. And, we do it for the right reasons. Not that making money isn't a right reason, but that's never been an option for us. But but we still want to do it, and we still love doing it, and I think we still do it pretty fucking well for a bunch of old farts.
You're still killing it, man. And
yeah, so I mean, we're not done yet. So I can answer that question in the next 15 years when maybe we just don't do it anymore.
Yeah, when you put out the box set of 15 albums, so
we'll see.
And the biggest question, of course, is when are you coming back to Australia? That's the most important. Well, is it on the cards? I know you just have to release the album in August, obviously.
Well, funny you should ask that, because there may be some plans in place that will bring us down there before the end of the year.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So it's kind of odd, because we've been working on something to try to make this happen, and all these 7 interviews I'm doing today are all Australian media. Excellent. So it's almost like I'm like, do they know something that I don't? But so we're hopeful to bring it back down sooner than later. So you maybe where are you from?
I'm from Melbourne, yeah. So I'm yeah. So town. So
you may be hope with all luck, you may be seeing us before the end of the year.
Fantastic! God, like that fills me with joy.
Us too, because we fucking love it there, man. Like I said, obviously the Mind Snare guys, we got really tight with those guys. They're some of our besties, and then of course I'm sure Jared, just by the
questions.
Yeah. So I still stay in touch with him. We just made a lot of good friends. Like a lot of huge bands never come down there, and we've managed to come down there 3 times.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but we're hoping to make it a 4th time. So.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Well, thanks for your time. Lovely chatting to you. Congrats on the record. It's gonna blow people's minds.
I hope so.
But I think it's a real weapon, this one. So thanks for having a chat, and it looks like we'll see you before the end of the year. That'll be good.
I hope so.
Face to face.
Right on. Okay, right, man. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your time, man. Take care. See ya.
Been fed many lies about me. People in this day and age are brainwashed and programmed.